to that?
Sure.
It was never our intent to do any work in the buffer zone. We did not come here
I understand
misrepresenting
that.
anything.
Nope, I
And it
understand
was a total mistake and fail on many levels. Our contractor, our site contractor, Mercura, did not have the super on site when the tree clearers came in. The tree clearers were instructed what to do. They did not follow the instructions. Everything had been clearly marked. It was inspected. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. Our contractor didn't do what they were supposed to do, nor did we from a supervision standpoint. So it's not an excuse, but that it was just a failure at all three levels.
Okay.
So,
I appreciate you coming before us, acknowledging the mistake, and, working with Goddard to come up with, a plan here to bring things back into compliance with the order. But it just, to me, in the order of conditions, what the monitoring reports are supposed to be submitted monthly, Don, or bi-monthly, what was it? Twice monthly.
Every other week.
Every other week, okay? The site work started in October of 2018. That was over a year ago, and we're just getting the SWIP reports now, and the monitoring reports now. So there's been a year that has passed, work has happened at the site, and the commission hasn't gotten the monitoring reports. We haven't had the pre-construction meeting yet with Matt and Don. And I understand that we did approve, some of the work, getting access to the site, both on Whalen and the Chamberlain sides. But there just seems to be a push to get this project done, and to move the contractors along and to accelerate the project without taking into consideration the order and the requirements of the commission. It just, to me, I see this as, just a wholesale disregard for, the commission, what we've, worked with you guys on, a disregard for the discussions that we had. And, it's just very, this is really, really upsetting to me to see this. So,
Jeff,
yes,
may I say something? I won't repeat what Jeff says, but I feel the same way. My question is, who is the owner's rep here? Bowler? Certainly not you guys, right?
What do you mean by owner's rep?
Construction manager,
Contractor.
owner's rep. Who's responsible for this project?
ultimately, we are as
Well, I
REC
know that.
Hopkinton. So we have
Who's supervising?
Bowler as our civil engineer, and right now, it's our site contractor, Mercura
But
Excavating.
you have an owner's rep or construction manager, same thing,
Then it-
overseeing the entire project.
It's a combination between Bowler and Mercura.
So, well, McCure's a site contract, I understand, right?
Correct. There is no
I-
middleman right now for the site work that we're doing.
It's not a middleman, it's somebody who's managing the entire project from the ground up. You're talking about the pre-construction meeting with them. That's not the same as a pre-construction meeting with your contractors. I can't imagine a site contractor or a land clearing company that doesn't know what erosion control barriers are, doesn't know what blue flags are, doesn't know where wetlands boundaries are, and doesn't know that they're not supposed to mess in those areas or work in those areas. I can't conceive of anybody. And you're still using the same site contractor. And the land clearing company will continue to do the rest of the land clearing?
We are having those discussions now.
So before any of this site work, McClure's been the only site contractor?
Yes.
Before and during the work that McClure's done, has anybody representing you gone through the plans with them and talked to them about what the limits were and what their
Of
role
course,
was?
we
or
had,
just let
we
them
had
go?
kickoff meetings when we started back in October that brought together Bowler, Goddard, and Mercura. We have once monthly meetings, and then basically on an as-needed basis, we're bringing together Bowler and Mercura.
But some of these violations happened in July and August?
Correct, of this year.
So if you have a monthly meeting, seems to me that you should have called those things to our attention
We honestly,
after one of those.
as the owners, we were not aware of it until it was brought up. And I've represented that we were not in the buffer zone, I've had discussions with Mercura that we weren't to be in the buffer zones because we had the issue too, where we didn't have our water quality cert, et cetera. And they were assuring me we weren't in the buffer zone, and then the realization hit that they paved and we had the small sections of road that were in the buffer zone.
Well, it seems to me
So,
that
it's,
Bower's the one who's not paying attention to what's going on.
There's
I mean,
some
that's-
incredibly sloppy management.
Well, it's oversight. I mean, you're the owner.
I'm not going to
You're the
disagree.
owner, you have somebody who's running the project, owner's rep, construction manager, and then all the contractors or subcontractors.
I mean, it's
So
just, it's incompetence on the part of the site contractor. You know, complete incompetence. And this is an area, this is a site that is very difficult. There are a lot of resource areas. There's a lot of buffer zone. And if this was my project, I would have had the site contractor on site all day with the tree clearing company, directing them to, you know, the areas where they were allowed to cut and keeping them away from areas that were, resource areas that were to be avoided. That didn't happen. So I don't want to rehash this. I think we all know what the issues are here. Don, did you get a chance to calculate any?
No, because we
Violation.
didn't have the dates, and this is just the discussion point. If you guys, this was just a violation discussion, if you guys wanted to initiate a violation hearing, you know, and need to draft up the conditions of the order of conditions that was violated, I usually get that directed from you guys. I don't,
Yeah.
you know, do that ahead of time. This is, I don't know where you guys wanted to go.
Okay, what,
But in regards to going forward, I think we're still waiting on the information for the bridge crossing. That was gonna be subject to an amended notice of intent. So then
Correct.
Beta could review it. So I would think that would be,
Can we do the pre-construction meeting without that piece of information finalized?
well, that's the commission's
That's what we
decision.
want to do, because I think everything else besides the bridge design can then be managed, you know, in accordance with the order, I believe, if we have the pre-construction meeting. Having that as a prerequisite to the pre-construction meeting is a challenging timeline bottleneck for this.
yeah, my sense is, that we should have the pre-construction meeting, because there are some areas here where the road has already, the base has been put down. I think there are areas there that need to be addressed in the short term to manage the drainage. So I'd rather see that managed sooner rather than later. So that would be my sense. Does that make sense to the rest of the
Can I
commission?
try to say one more thing?
Do you want construction to move forward, or you just want us to button up what's happened?
I think we button up what's happened. It's 90% the design.
For
Mr.
sure.
Goddard?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. All the geotech borings are done, we got the drawings back, yeah, so it's looking good.
Okay. So that'd be my sense, to have the pre-construction meeting sooner rather than later. you
And then-
know, when Matt's,
So we just give a sense of, you know, are the erosion controls, you know, efficient, and they can continue working outside the commission's jurisdiction, but no further work in the commission's jurisdiction until the amended notice of intent is, and you guys issue an amended order.
yep. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and, you know, Matt, and you and I can discuss how and if we want to handle the felled trees in this zone when we're on site.
Well, yeah, but I think it brings up the question of what the commission wants as far as engineered drawings with regard to
Temporary
temporary
construction.
BMPs. Because I think,
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with you that, you know,
I think
I don't disagree, Scott, that a lot of the stuff is field done, but when the project is built in this fashion, somebody has to go back and check some of these numbers, because I think you've been very fortunate that you haven't had a significant blowout.
Right.
And a real problem out here.
Correct.
And you know, we're in the worst time of year to be doing any of this stuff.
Correct.
So I think this thing has to get buttoned up really tight, and that has to be done both with engineering calculations to show that if you're gonna not just basically put the whole thing to bed and come back in May, that you can continue to work in a safe manner through the year.
Yeah.
I think that's critical.
We'll integrate that into the next report to you guys. We'll get that done.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, one more
Yes.
thing. I mean, I keep hearing, it's not because there hasn't been, I don't want to word this negatively. This happened, if you had had the pre-construction meeting before, I'm not sure what, it's not the pre-construction meeting that caused this. That is, not having a pre-construction meeting is not what this resulted from, right? You're not saying, we gotta have this pre-construction meeting because look what happens if we didn't have the pre-construction meeting.
I don't think I'm saying it quite like that, but what.
You shouldn't say it like that at all.
Right, correct.
because it's-
But the
they're
work
separate
that's
things.
happened is work that is approved work to occur, right? It's consistent with the design and the approved site plans. It just hasn't happened administratively in accordance with
It
the
hasn't
timing
happened
of
in
the order.
step order, in the order that
Correct.
it would normally happen.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
But the pre-construction meeting shouldn't be needed to have it be done in the correct order. That's all I'm saying. Right?
Through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
So, Scott, you've been involved in this I know you're involved through the permitting, but you've been involved from back when work actually started?
No.
Okay.
This was the first time I was on site since the work started.
Okay. So I guess the
Well,
question.
on site since the work started.
Well,
From in an inspection
From an inspection-
standpoint.
from an inspection,
Right,
yeah.
right, right.
So I guess the question that I'll ask that might be beneficial to the commission is, typically at the pre-construction meeting, when I'm doing that, I think, Dawn, feel free to chime in if you feel differently, literally we'll go through each condition, or certainly any condition that has some relevance to the actual construction. So as a team, did you guys sit down at some point and go through the order of conditions and read it as a group and say, okay, we gotta make sure we're doing this, and that we're submitting those SWIP reports twice monthly and all that, or did that just get skipped over?
We did not do it fully at the beginning. We went through it when we did the formal requests for the pre-construction meeting, because those were all the things that needed to be, supplied as part of the pre-construction request, like all the documents and such. That was
Came
back
in
in
October
October.
25th.
Right, October 25th. So we went through it there to see, to make sure that we basically had everything.
So you'd been working for about a year before you really looked too closely at the order?
Other than what we needed to just get going outside of the buffer zones. So we had some initial discussions when we started, and it was our understanding that until we did any work in the buffer zone, and we weren't intending to do any work in the buffer zone, that you didn't want any engagement with us, and we didn't need to engage you until we started that work. That's what the
But under your
direction
NIP
was.
And
But
you
under
didn't
your
know-
NIPD's permit, as soon as you break ground, you're subject to compliance with the NIPD's permit and following your SWIP. And that doesn't sound like that's happened.
It is not.
And then on October 25th, you didn't realize that you had worked in the buffer zone.
No.
Yeah, so that was an oversight, and I guess, from my standpoint, this isn't the first project that Mr. Mastriani has conducted in Hopkinton. So from that standpoint, I'm a little bit disappointed that this has happened, because, he should know better. But having said that, I think, we have the marching orders for you guys now. And the second request, Don, I'd like to ask you to do is just to tab up, do a calculation of the violation.
Present to the commission, or do you want to schedule another a violation hearing? Right now, it's just a violation discussion.
Yeah, and I'd like to schedule a violation hearing with
Okay.
Mr. Mastriani.
All right.
I just think that, we need to take a look at it. My sense is, and we'll have to think about this as a commission, we can come up with some type of number and hold it in abeyance, for the time being, and then if we have further, issues or continued issues with this, then we can maybe assess the fine at that point in time, so.
You guys could give us the date in July that, yeah, I think that would be fantastic.
July 2nd.
Oh, thank you.
Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I will let you, so who's doing the slip inspections now?
We are. So I was out there on Saturday.
Nicole,
Yeah.
and you're,
No,
I'm
he's-
I'm
he-
I'm,
he
with- I'm
works
with
for me.
Goddard. So I'm a certified professional in sedimentation and erosion control. And so I was out there on Saturday after the rain. I first heard about the work that we needed inspected on Thursday. I was out there Friday with the contractor and Scott, and I went out Saturday afternoon after the heavy rain because I wanted this because that's a SWIP inspection requirement after the half-inch rainstorm, and I went there in the afternoon to make sure I timed it with just after the rain because that was actually the optimal time to see conditions when all the rain's on the ground. It's starting to move.
so you're contracted now to do once
yes.
a week or after
Yes.
rainfall event? and do
Yes.
a
So
report?
every week,
And do
every
the
week,
training, do the contractor get the training?
We have to do all of that.
yeah,
So who wrote
we're getting.
the SWIP?
Bowler did. Bowler wrote the SWIP, so.
And you guys
that
are
was-
now
that-
implementing?
And
Correct.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that
we
was,
have.
that was done back with the stormwater report, you know.
Yep.
Right, well, I mean, they're mentioning the construction general permit that requiring all that training and stuff, so you're in violation of that, which is a federal permit. It's not like EPA is gonna come knocking on your door, but,
No,
it's- there
I
seems
mean,
to be a definite
yeah.
handoff.
There's
I mean, I'm
there's
just
been a
wondering-
maintenance. I mean, the installation's been really was good overall. When I walked the site from an installation standpoint, they installed it well. There's just maintenance that should have been uptaken in the sense of making sure the silt fence wasn't sagging in a few spots and watching for the pinch points, which usually it takes some guys a little bit of time just to catch up to it on that. So I've been
S&M
doing
Farms put it all in.
Yeah.
They're very professional at putting it in.
yeah,
Yeah, but they don't come and maintain it.
Correct,
So
No.
like, if they put it in a year ago.
correct. And we went through this whole line with them.
Yeah, it
and-
seems
and
to be, I'm
yeah.
just trying to, the weak point seems to be with the contractor.
yeah.
And so,
Well, the good thing, I mean, from our standpoint, I'm only going on site to deal with erosion control issues on the site. I have no other role on the site. I don't care what else is happening on the site. I don't care what the
gotcha.
schedule is. I care about weekly inspections, storm inspections, making sure it's all documented at least, so that you at least have the documentation of what happened with photographs. And then from there, you'll definitely get a sense that we're definitely getting good control, and that's my job here. So and that's the benefit of us having the SWIP instead of the contractor is the contractor will never be leaving it till Friday afternoon to do at dark. So it's I'm strictly watching the weather and timing sites visits accordingly.
right, yeah, okay.
Okay, any other comments? All right, thank you.
So Matt will be in touch to schedule that? Okay, thank you.
Habitat Homes, 5 West Elm Street, 0 Lake Point Way. This is a request for an extension permit for order of conditions. Don, do I need to read this?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm George Gallagher with
Hi.
Habitat Homes and, or Habitat Communities in Maspinock Woods.
And Robert Boxer, Dairy Avalon.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
So what we're requesting is an extension on the order of conditions that expires on January 4th of 2020.
Okay,
We have we have only 2 buildings left to construct on the site. Basically, all the work in the buffer has been completed, it has been stabilized. All the units that are in the buffer, they've all been built quite some time ago. But the remaining completion of the infrastructure, finished pavement, bringing the structures up to grade, all that which contributes to the stormwater is still remaining to do. And that's gonna happen after the last 2 buildings are constructed.
okay.
We'll put the curbing down, we'll get the finished pavement, we'll button up the shoulder with the landscaping, everything will be all set. And then after that, the only remaining work within the buffer will be trying to resolve the development of the existing lot, at 5 West Elm,
Right, the one outside the
the one
development
outside the
area.
development.
Okay,
So we feel that, with the extension, we'll be able to button that up with this.
okay. All right, so I believe it was a 1-year extension
One-year
request?
extension, yes.
Okay. All right, I think that sounds okay with me. Any questions from the commission? Okay, if I can get a motion to approve the extension request for 1 year for Habitat Homes,
So moved.
and a second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Not meeting
Merry
in 3
Christmas.
weeks, so keep liberty to write it up.
Wait till I see it, my omnibus. I have one, I just didn't feel like reaching. I just didn't feel like reaching. I'll go get it. I just didn't want to slow up the process.
Yeah, I can send it to,
Kinda got
send it to our
it, kinda
attorney,
got
get
it.
it recorded.
Okay, great.
Flashlight,
All right.
I had many times now.
All
I
right,
have one.
thanks.
iPad.
Yeah, we'll issue it from the office standpoint, you don't get it.
Yeah, we need some
Okay.
time.
All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I just need the, I
Okay.
need the John Hancocks.
Right, okay, thank you.
McLaughlin, 1 Oakhurst Road and 3 Oakhurst Road. This is a continuation of a notice of intent. Good evening. Good, thanks.
As we left the hearing last time, there was some discussion about resource areas. And did we have all the resource areas on the site delineated? Matt and Scott Heim, Northeast Ecological, were able to get together last week and re-review the site. And what they have identified is a BVW that extends across that grassed area east of the existing dwellings. So we have the lake proper here highlighted in pink. There is now a BVW up here in green.
Okay,
And the associated buffer zones move from something in here to what you see here in yellow.
okay.
So we got together. As you can probably imagine, it's kind of a complicated thing. We have an absentee owner. We have, living out of state, we have Board of Appeals decisions that we have to factor in with the house designs. But what we have proposed here is to take number 1, the existing dwelling, the camp is here, and take the proposed location from back in here somewhere to underneath that existing dwelling, so that the proposed dwelling and porch area and deck will be no closer to the resource area than what exists now.
Okay,
We have taken all of the associated amenities, access walkways, grading, retaining walls, and pushed them the same distance westerly away from the resource area. I don't know, are both hearings open? Jump from 1 to 3?
sure, yeah, that's fine.
At number 3, that work down in here is much closer than the proposed. The existing deck, the stairway, the landing, the demolition, all that is closer than our original location. So we have left number 3 unchanged at this point. What Gary and Peter thought would be a help was to try to offset some of the impacts here by removing the patio and walkway that are here, regrading that area, loaming and seeding that, and then the swing that is a 2x12 tacked to a couple of the maple trees here on number 1, remove the loam or the fasteners, and remedy that situation with the changes that have taken place there.
Okay,
And that is chiefly the changes to the plan. Matt highlighted in his original memo some of the issues. There are details now for the erosion control, which is snug to both homes up here through the middle of the site. We have dry wells sized. We've got some calculations in there for those, and then some just general construction details that were omitted in the last submission.
okay. And then that area along the lake is gonna be allowed to revegetate?
Right, will
and
remain untouched. Yeah,
Okay.
we have no interest in maintaining it, so it'd be allowed to go back natural.
Okay. All right, so, think we'd probably just want to put some signs in along that perimeter, just so when the owners move in, it doesn't inadvertently get, mowed and converted to lawn area.
Yeah.
Yeah, my expectation would be whatever trees are there are a couple of pines there, and then the cedar posts for PIB along the edge of the limit of work.
Okay?
Through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
So Joe, when we were out there, we noticed down, on number one, where this area here, there was like a old dock here, whatever. Presumably that would all get removed and cleared out, so basically anything, either in the wetland or in the area along there would all
We can,
get cleared out.
Yeah, there are two docks, one sitting on top of that patio, there were some barrels, I'm not sure where those came from, and then the other dock at number one, but all that would be removed.
So there's no proposed future access for these homes to the lake, basically, so it sounds like.
Correct, yep. Yeah.
Well, it's not.
I think that situation there, it's not our property anyway,
Right,
so.
right.
Okay. Questions or comments from the commission?
Through the chair?
Yes.
We'd still be looking, we just got this yesterday, we didn't get a chance to really do a lot of work, but with the changes in the setbacks, in essence, they'd need to file a waiver request just to meet the no build on 3, and you've got some decks on 1, so if you guys are amenable, it would be, subject to receiving the waiver request, and we'd write a finding of fact.
Yeah, I think that's
To that
fine,
effect.
if we do that. Is that agreeable to everyone? Okay.
So, just some clarity on waiver request, both 1 and 3?
It's, because basically, it would be the no-build zone, so you actually have the house for 3 is in the 50-foot. And then on 1 is the one closest to you, right, Joe?
Yes, correct.
Yep, and then, so the house, the structure is outside the 50, it's just the deck that's inside?
Yes.
So,
But you're removing that. Aren't you pushing everything back to the same footprint that's there for the
So
house?
the deck will continue to be 40 feet from
Oh,
the
okay.
resource area. The structure will
Which
be
is what
back
it is now.
56.
so in essence, the waiver request would note, the site's not pristine, it's previously disturbed, and
Right.
taking into account the mitigation, hence that's why they're looking for a waiver to do the house there at 1 and the deck there at 3. And if you guys are amenable, then.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay. All right, if I can get a motion to close no one in the audience? Okay. I get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent for 1 Oakhurst Road,
So moved.
and a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And can I get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent for 3 Oakhurst Road?
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second. Same thing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
Great.
Very good. You're welcome. No problem. Have a nice holiday.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to
Thank
everybody.
you.
You too, John.
Got a couple of signature pages to come around, because we're not meeting for 3 weeks. And oh, and then obviously, the one that doesn't have a DEP file number, we can't issue that until DEP issues the file number.
That's so
So that'll be
weird.
subject to.
So one of them you
I have no
got, one
idea.
of them you got, the DEP. will only
DEP
did.
issued a file number for one, but did not for the other.
That's bizarre.
Joe, you told him that, right? Technically, we can't issue one of the orders until DEP gives us that number.
Right.
So we're kind of stuck on one of them.
DEP, I contacted Mary L., so hopefully we'll get an answer shortly, we'll get the second
Okay.
Yeah.
number for number 3.
But I assume it'll come pretty
Yeah.
quick, so,
I would hope so.
yeah, so we're moving on our end.
Okay, yep, yeah. Okay, so we're on to the
No.
public forum requests, and we have
Yes.
Mr. Harrow's request for discussion on the Sudbury Assabet Concord Wild and Scenic River Stewardship Council proposal. Don, you want to give us an overview?
I was just, yeah, this is
Wasco.
How do we even qualify? We're not in the.
It's too late,
The
isn't
wild
it
and
due
scenic section.
2 days ago?
Pardon?
Isn't the grant application due 2 days ago?
It's in.
Oh, in that case, thank you.
A miracle
I
occurred.
missed something. That's wrong camera, too.
So, we have this memorandum of understanding that we're supposed to sign, and I have inquired of Kristen where we're supposed to sign it, because there is no place for us to sign it. And I did that on Friday, and I haven't heard back. But the initial paperwork we have to get, had to have by the 15th is in.
Okay.
Courtesy of Ben Sweeney. I can't sing his praises enough, and if you don't know who Ben Sweeney is, he's the guy that runs grants and stuff out of Town Hall. And he went after me on Saturday and said, "Hey, Ed, I haven't heard from," not me, from somebody else. It wasn't me, but I had completely forgotten about it because I assumed that it was all in good hands. Unfortunately, I had the information, and one piece of information I didn't have, I went and got. So all the information needed for the grant was there, it went in, it's been accepted, and my query is still unanswered as to how we sign this thing, but that's where
Okay. So how much is the grant for?
we don't know yet.
Okay.
It's,
So the grant is for approximately 2 acres of bittersweet removal and other invasives on a piece of property off of Piazza Lane. And I walked over there and I gave them the longitude and latitude. I hope that would be plain specific enough because they wanted that. And-
of all of it?
No, I just kind of went in the middle and I said, around this place.
Locust.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's where we're at.
So the process is, it gets reviewed by this group. They issue the money to the town.
They will, I forwarded you
If it's
that
awarded.
email, yeah, after, when the work is done, we get a bill, we send them the bill.
Okay.
But where's the
So
money
we-
go? Into Conservation Commission, open space, or general?
It sounds to me, reading this thing, like I don't
So we would hire a contractor to do the work.
Right.
They come in, invoice us,
Right.
we submit the invoice to this group, and then they pay for it?
yeah, they either pay us or they
Oh,
pay
so it's-
the contractor, that's what I'm not quite
Oh,
sure,
okay.
and I don't know if she was clear on that.
It's not a reimbursement grant?
So,
Funds are reimbursed following the submission of an invoice that the states what the funds were used to purchase, quote unquote.
So the town will have to set up a fund, pay them, and then get paid back.
Reimbursed for it.
we can't do that, though. It has to be
We
The
have,
general fund,
the
yeah.
general fund?
You're right, out of general fund.
Open Space has the funds. So we can
Or they
pay
can
it,
pay it and be
we can
reimbursed.
pay it out of Open Space's kitty
They want to, yeah, but
and then get reimbursed.
We could pay it out of our kitty
You have
and get
enough.
reimbursed on, right?
It's not, oh, okay.
Potentially?
And then they would
minute,
reimburse
is this
you,
for-
open space.
Well,
For
whoever,
Concom?
Yeah,
You-
for the
Is that okay?
invasive weed removal.
The only money you've got would be the, what's that thing called, the trust? you
Right.
know? And then, yeah, you check with the treasurer to see if they would greenlight it as that's an expendable expense under that, because it's under their purview.
Right.
Because you couldn't do it under any of your 53.5 or your WPA.
We couldn't do it under the WPA?
Don,
No,
we have
no,
it.
no, you couldn't.
Okay.
Open Space's kitty can pay it. And we've also put in for money from the town meeting for more money, so.
you
Okay.
just have
One
to
way or
make
another.
sure when it gets reimbursed, it goes back into the fund,
the
instead
fee?
of back into the general fund.
It seems to,
He was,
it's more
submitted a
it's more
request for
appropriate
funding
in open space
through this group,
Yeah.
matter, not.
and what they'll do is, they will pay for the removal of invasives at Lake White.
No, I know, but I mean, in terms of like
Um,
directing
First,
it,
and then they
right,
reimburse.
so it's not really
No, so I guess the way it works
conservation.
is we would pay for it, then we
Do they
submit
have
the
grants for the
bill.
Charles
the bill,
River
and
watershed?
then they reimburse.
That's not-
So
So this group is just
so it's
specifically
gotta come from
Salusko?
somewhere
Yeah,
initially,
but
but it gets
if you
reimbursed,
want- Oh, I
you
see, okay.
know.
All right.
That's
at
the
some
If
rate
you
of point.
want
That's
the
the grant.
person
Okay,
to
you
talk
show
to
us the
Charles
bill, you
River,
show us the
I
work.
don't really,
We'll help.
but
Okay,
it's
then
one
I
of
agree
those,
with you.
I mean, I would love to accept
Through
that,
the
you know.
Charles River watershed.
Yeah, I think her name is Heather.
Yeah, I think they say,
Goes in one.
Try an upper limit on what the
Pays the
grant is
elephant.
on.
right, yeah, I think they tell you
Pays
what
the
the
elephant
plan is,
in
whether
one
it's
year.
5,000 or
There's one year, not
10,000.
the other.
And I think
But this
you
is through
just
the
hire
National
someone to
Park
do
Service,
$5,000 worth of work.
Wild Scenic River
For real?
Stewardship, whereas the other one's a watershed association. So these would actually be probably federal funds. Because I got a grant for Framingham from that program.
The same program?
Well, the same parent organization, but a different grant
Oh,
program.
okay.
They have joint community grant. But it's the Wild and Scenic River starts in Framingham, goes to Wayland.
It looks like I didn't put Heather in here yet, so I don't have her name.
No, I was gonna call this tomorrow morning.
I have her card, though.
That's okay, I can't read.
I may have her card with me, it's possible.
No, seriously, I would love to, but you can't count on me.
I know I can't count on it.
Okay, well, thank you for doing that, Ed, we appreciate it. So we'll wait to
Just like we
see
are, straight up on it.
what the grant amount is.
I don't know where, Charles River watershed.
All right, anything else?
Small.
I will most likely miss the January 7th meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, in that case.
January 7th, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, if I get a motion,
Stuff about the grant? Motion.
The time
To
being
close.
Adjourn the meeting?
6,
So,
I
who
make the
moved?
motion, we adjourn the
Second.
meeting at 8:36.
See it?
second,
Call.
Or is that Daphne?
all in favor?
Second.
Is it like-
Aye.
This is
Opposed?
the memorandum of understanding.
Thank you, Mike.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.